The first thing she did was lock the door. Not slam it. Not gently close it. Lock it. The sharp click echoed through the apartment hallway while I stood there holding a backpack full of textbooks and a frozen pizza I'd promised my best friend, Tyler, I'd bring over. Then his sister stepped in front of me. "You're not getting past me without talking first." Madison Carter crossed her arms against the doorway like she owned the entire world behind her. Maybe she did. Long dark hair fell over one shoulder, oversized gray hoodie hanging off one side like she'd thrown it on in a hurry. But her eyes, those were the dangerous part. Red. Like she'd been crying. I blinked. Tyler home? Nope. Okay, I awkwardly pointed behind her. Then I'll just leave this. No. Her voice cracked slightly. That changed everything. Madison and I had known each other for years, but we had an unspoken agreement: stay out of each other's business. She thought I was reckless. I thought she was intimidating. Tyler always joked we acted like divorced parents forced into shared custody. But this wasn't normal. Rain hammered against the apartment windows behind her. Thunder rolled somewhere in the distance while the hallway lights flickered overhead. "Madison," I said carefully, "what's going on?" She stared at me for 3 long seconds. Then finally whispered, "You disappeared." The words hit harder than expected. "What?" "For 3 weeks," she said. "No calls. No texts. Tyler said you were busy, but I knew something was wrong." I swallowed hard. Because something was wrong. And judging by the look in her eyes, she already knew. She stepped closer, blocking the doorway completely. "You don't get to vanish," she said softly. "Not after what happened that night." And suddenly, the memory I'd spent weeks trying to bury came crashing back all at once. The rain. The fight. The blood on my knuckles. And Madison crying in my car at 2 in the morning. 3 weeks earlier, life had actually felt normal. Tyler and I were working part-time jobs while finishing community college, spending most nights playing basketball at the old courts behind Riverside Park. Simple routine. Simple life. Then Madison came home from Chicago. Tyler mentioned it casually one afternoon while we were eating greasy diner burgers. "My sister's staying for a while," he said. "Try not to flirt with her this time." I nearly choked on my fries. "I never flirted with your sister." Tyler stared at me. "You once called her emotionally terrifying but weirdly pretty." That was observational. That was stupid. Fair enough. The thing about Madison was she carried herself like someone older than 24. Confident. Sharp. Controlled. She wore expensive coats, worked for some big architecture company in Chicago, and always looked like she had somewhere more important to be. Meanwhile, I was delivering auto parts in a beat-up Honda Civic that screamed every time I turned left. Different worlds. Or at least that's what I kept telling myself. The first night she came back, Tyler invited me over for poker and beer. I walked into the apartment expecting the usual chaos. Instead, I found Madison alone in the kitchen. Soft jazz played quietly from her phone while she stood barefoot by the stove stirring pasta sauce in gray sweatpants and a black tank top. She looked up. "Oh," she said. "It's you." I leaned against the counter. Disappointed? A little. But she smirked. That was new. Over the next week, things shifted in ways I didn't understand. Tyler worked late shifts, leaving me and Madison alone more often than either of us expected. We started talking. Really talking. About childhood mistakes. Failed relationships. Dreams we never admitted out loud. One night we sat on the apartment rooftop sharing takeout noodles while city lights reflected in her eyes. "You ever feel stuck?" I asked. "All the time," she admitted quietly. That surprised me. "You seem like someone who has everything figured out." Madison laughed softly. "That's because I'm good at pretending." For some reason, that sentence stayed with me. Because beneath the confidence and sarcasm, I started noticing the exhaustion she tried hiding from everyone else. And the more I noticed it, the harder it became to stop thinking about her. The trouble started on a Friday night. Tyler was out with coworkers, and Madison asked if I could drive her downtown to pick up some documents from her company's temporary office. Simple favor. At least, it should have been. Rain poured relentlessly as we drove through the city, windshield wipers barely keeping up. Madison sat quietly beside me scrolling through emails, tension written across her face. "You okay?" I asked. Fine. You say, fine, like someone preparing for war. She sighed and leaned her head against the window. My boss wants me back in Chicago next week. That's good, right? Maybe. The answer felt heavier than it should have. When we reached the office building, she disappeared inside while I waited in the car. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Then suddenly, my phone rang. Madison. I answered immediately. Hey, everything okay? Can you come upstairs? Her voice sounded wrong. I ran inside. The moment the elevator doors opened on the 7th floor, I heard shouting. A tall man in a navy suit cornered Madison near a conference room while she clutched folders against her chest. You don't walk away from projects like this, he snapped. I already resigned. You signed contracts. And you crossed lines. The man noticed me approaching. Who's this? Madison answered before I could. My ride. The guy laughed coldly. That's cute. Something in his tone made my stomach tighten. I stepped beside her. We leaving? Madison nodded quickly. But as we turned away, the man grabbed her wrist. Everything after that happened fast. I shoved his arm away. He shoved back harder. The next thing I knew, we were crashing into a glass table while security guards shouted across the hallway. By the time we escaped into the rain, my knuckles were bleeding and Madison looked terrified. We sat silently in my car while thunder exploded overhead. Finally she whispered, "You shouldn't have done that. He grabbed you. You could have gotten arrested." But I didn't. Madison stared at me with trembling eyes. Then suddenly started crying. Not softly. Not elegantly. Completely breaking apart in my passenger seat while rain battered the windows around us. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. I cared about her far more than I was supposed to. After that night, everything between us changed. Before, Madison and I danced around tension like it didn't exist. Now it sat directly between us every time we looked at each other. Tyler noticed immediately. You two are acting weird, he said one afternoon while helping me change brake pads outside my apartment. We're always weird. No. This is different weird. I tightened a bolt harder than necessary. You overthink everything. Tyler narrowed his eyes. If you hook up with my sister, I'll throw you into traffic. Good talk. But the truth was, I couldn't stop thinking about her. Especially after seeing her break down in my car. A few nights later, Madison showed up at my apartment unexpectedly. No makeup. Hair tied back. Oversized hoodie swallowing her frame. You weren't answering texts, she said. I frowned. I was working. You're avoiding me. The scary part? She was right. Because every time I got close to her, I felt myself losing control of emotions I'd spent years keeping buried. She walked inside before I could respond. My apartment suddenly felt embarrassingly small compared to her polished Chicago life. Second-hand furniture. Old basketball posters. Dishes in the sink. But instead of judging, she wandered slowly through the space like she was trying to understand me. You live like a raccoon, she muttered. Financially, yes. That earned a laugh. Then silence. Heavy silence. Finally she looked at me seriously. That guy at the office, he was my ex. I froze. What? We dated for almost 2 years. The jealousy that hit me was immediate and ugly. Madison noticed. Her expression softened slightly. He wasn't a good person, she said quietly. I stayed longer than I should have. I leaned against the counter carefully. Did he hurt you? Not physically. Something about the way she answered made my chest tighten. She stepped closer. Too close. I'm not used to people defending me, she admitted. You deserve better people. For a second, neither of us moved. The tension became unbearable. Her eyes dropped briefly to my lips. And right before something dangerous could happen, my phone rang. Tyler. Madison stepped back instantly like reality had slammed into the room. And somehow that hurt worse than anything else. The next week became a slow-burning disaster. Madison and I kept finding reasons to be around each other while pretending nothing was happening. Coffee runs. Late-night grocery trips. Movie marathons with Tyler that somehow ended with him asleep while we quietly talked for hours. Every moment pulled us closer. And every moment made me feel guiltier. Because Tyler trusted me. One night, Madison and I sat on the apartment fire escape overlooking downtown traffic below. Cold wind moved through the city while distant sirens echoed somewhere far away. "You know what scares me most?" she asked softly. I glanced at her. "What?" "That I'm happier here." "With Tyler?" She smiled faintly. "With you." That sentence wrecked me completely. I stared out at the glowing streets below because looking directly at her suddenly felt dangerous. "You shouldn't say stuff like that." "Why?" "You know why." Madison leaned back against the brick wall. "You act like feelings are crimes." "No," I said quietly. "But hurting people is." Her expression shifted. "Tyler?" I nodded once. She looked down at her hands. "You think he'd hate us?" "I think he'd feel betrayed." Silence settled between us again. Then Madison surprised me. "When I was younger," she said softly, "I used to think love was supposed to feel dramatic. Like movies. Chaos and fireworks and obsession. And now? Now I think it's safety." I looked at her fully then. "And you feel safe with me?" She answered without hesitation. "Yes." That single word hit harder than any confession. Before I could respond, her phone buzzed. She checked the screen and immediately tensed. "What happened?" Madison stood abruptly. "I have to go." "What?" "It's my ex." My stomach dropped. "He found out where I'm staying." The fear in her voice was real. And suddenly, everything that happened at that office made horrifying sense. Madison refused to explain everything at first. But around midnight, she finally broke. We were sitting inside my car parked outside Tyler's apartment while rain drizzled softly across the windshield again. Same car. Same storm. Different fear. "He's been following me for months," she admitted quietly. I stared at her. "Why didn't you tell Tyler?" "Because Tyler would do something stupid." "And I wouldn't?" "That's exactly what scares me." She rubbed her trembling hands together before continuing. "When I tried leaving Chicago, my ex threatened to ruin my career. Said he'd make sure nobody hired me again." "Can he actually do that? In architecture?" She laughed bitterly. "Connections matter." Anger burned through me so fast I had to grip the steering wheel. "So what now?" "I don't know." For the first time since I met her, Madison looked completely lost. Not confident. Not composed. Just tired. I reached over instinctively and took her hand. She squeezed back immediately. Then she whispered something that changed everything. I almost stayed with him because I thought I deserved it. I turned toward her sharply. "Don't ever say that again." "It's true." "No," I said firmly. "It's what abusive people convince you to believe." Madison's eyes watered instantly. And before I could think better of it, I kissed her. Soft. Careful. Terrifying. For one perfect second, she kissed me back like she'd been waiting weeks for it. Then reality crashed down. She pulled away, breathing hard. "We can't." I already knew. But hearing it still hurt. "We already did," I said quietly. Madison closed her eyes. And that's when headlights suddenly flooded the car from behind. A black SUV parked directly across the street. Madison went pale instantly. "That's him." Everything exploded after that. The black SUV door opened, and Madison's ex stepped out into the rain wearing the same cold expression I remembered from the office. Tyler arrived 30 seconds later. Worst timing in human history. He jumped out of his truck holding takeout bags before stopping dead at the sight of me and Madison sitting together inside my car. Then he noticed her ex. Then he noticed Madison crying. Then he noticed the way she was holding my hand. His face changed instantly. "What the hell is going on?" Nobody answered fast enough. Madison's ex smirked. "Looks messy." Tyler looked at me first. That somehow hurt more. "You?" The disappointment in his voice felt like getting punched. "It's not what you think," Madison said quickly. "Oh really?" Tyler snapped. "Because it looks exactly like what I think." The rain poured harder around us while tension spiraled completely out of control. Madison's ex took another step forward. She always does this. Gets emotional. Makes bad decisions. "Shut up," I warned. He laughed coldly. "Or what?" Tyler suddenly grabbed my jacket. "Did you touch my sister?" "Tyler, answer me." Madison stepped between us immediately. "Stop it." But nobody was listening anymore. Years of friendship. Weeks of tension. hidden feelings, all detonating at once in the middle of a storm-soaked parking lot. Then Madison screamed. Not angry. Terrified. We all froze. Her ex had grabbed her arm again. That was enough. I hit him. Hard. He crashed against the SUV while Tyler shouted my name somewhere behind me. For a moment, chaos completely consumed everything. Until Madison suddenly yelled something that silenced all of us. I'm pregnant. The world stopped. Rain. Breathing. Thoughts. Everything. Tyler stared at her in shock. Her ex looked horrified. And I felt my entire heartbeat disappear. Because deep down, I already knew the answer before anyone spoke. Tyler looked like someone had ripped the ground out from under him. Madison stood trembling beneath the rain, tears mixing with water running down her face. Nobody moved. Finally Tyler whispered, "Whose is it?" The silence nearly killed me. Then Madison looked directly at me. And answered. His. My brain stopped functioning. What? Her ex exploded instantly. You're kidding me. Madison ignored him completely. Tyler turned toward me slowly like he didn't recognize me anymore. How long? It's not. How long, Ryan? We kissed tonight, Madison admitted. Tonight? Tyler laughed bitterly. That's somehow supposed to help? I stepped forward carefully. I never meant to hurt you. But you did. Those 4 words hit harder than any punch. Tyler and I had been best friends since we were 12 years old. Sleepovers. Basketball games. Breakups. Family funerals. He was basically my brother. And now he looked at me like a stranger. Madison wiped tears from her cheeks shakily. Tyler, listen to me. This isn't some game. You think I don't see that? Her ex scoffed nearby. You're seriously choosing this guy? Madison turned toward him with absolute fury. No, she said firmly. I'm choosing myself. That shut him up immediately. Then she faced Tyler again. I spent 2 years letting someone control my life because I was scared of disappointing people. I'm not doing that anymore. Tyler looked devastated. So what now? Madison reached for my hand slowly. And for the first time all night, I didn't pull away. I love him. The confession hit like lightning through the storm. My chest tightened so hard it physically hurt. Because despite all the chaos, I loved her too. 3 months later, Tyler still wasn't speaking to me. That was the hardest part. Not the pregnancy panic. Not the apartment hunting. Not the terrifying reality of becoming a father at 23. Losing my best friend destroyed me quietly every single day. Madison noticed. You should call him again, she said one evening while unpacking baby clothes in our tiny new apartment. He won't answer. Still. I sighed and rubbed my face tiredly. He hates me. Madison walked over slowly and placed my hand against her stomach where our daughter kicked softly beneath the fabric. You gave me a life I actually want, she whispered. Don't forget that. Before I could answer, someone knocked on the door. I opened it expecting delivery food. Instead, Tyler stood there awkwardly holding a diaper bag. We stared at each other silently. Then he muttered, You picked the ugliest apartment in the city. Relief hit me so hard I nearly laughed. You came. Madison threatened violence if I didn't. From behind me, she yelled, True. Tyler shook his head before finally looking serious. I'm still mad at you. I know. But she's happy. I swallowed hard. Yeah. And honestly? He sighed. I've never seen her this happy before. The tension between us cracked slightly. Then Tyler held up the diaper bag awkwardly. I bought baby stuff. Apparently babies need everything. I laughed for the first time in weeks. And just like that, something broken slowly started healing. Later that night, after Tyler left, Madison curled against my chest while city lights glowed outside our apartment window. You know, she whispered sleepily, blocking that door was the best decision I ever made. I kissed the top of her head softly. Yeah, I murmured. It really was.